What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Daily Fantasy Golf back this week after a week off. Had that event over in Japan a couple weeks ago, and they gave everybody a travel week to get back in the swing of things. And so here we are this week with a tournament out in Noto's neck of the woods out in Utah. The Bank of Utah Championship was the Black Desert Championship last year. Second year for this event. So we'll break that down here for you. Probably only take about a half an hour or so to get through things tonight with these fall swing events, pretty weak fields. I know everyone's probably focused on the football season, the start of NBA season tonight. So there's a lot going on. I might want to digest this in a quick nature as you set your golf lineups for this week, but we'll give you all the information you need to know. And as always, you got myself, Justin Van Zuiden, along with Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth. It always feels like forever when it's been a couple weeks since we've done a show. So, Noto, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. Ended up hitting Xander outright at the Bay Current Classic. So that was nice. Had a pretty good week at DFS too. So that's always fun. And as you mentioned, man, all the sports going on right now. We have MLB, going into the World Series, which is a lot of fun. George Springer's home run. I think I've watched the replay of that from every angle possible. Just electric, fun to watch. I'm not a big fan of any team in particular, but I like watching the games and stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. Basketball's starting tonight. NFL's going. Is NHL going too?
Yeah, it is. They're a couple weeks into to their season. So, of course, college football is still going strong. College basketball starts in like 3 weeks. So it's the time of the year where there's a lot of overlap for sure. Basically everything going on at once until baseball wraps up at least.
Yeah, and so it's the Utah Mammoth. So that's been fun. We went to a couple games last year. It was a lot of fun. It's more entertaining for the kids than the NBA games. That was fun, and it's that time of year where nobody's really paying attention to golf. So I think a lot of people are sort of just relying on their favorite projections or expert or whatever. So if you can find the time to put in a little bit more effort, put in a little bit more research, I do think you're going to have a bigger edge on the field.
Yeah, especially when these fields get pretty weak. Ownership tends to concentrate on certain players. And you got a week like we have this week. It's a pretty easy course. It's a par 71 course that I think last year the only course that was easier for a par 71 was the course for the John Deere Classic, TPC Deere Run. So we know it, probably play pretty easy, weak field. Those tend to be maybe a little bit more unpredictable, and you maybe get some low-owned guys that you want to target in those GPPs. So I thought the Bay Current Classic a few weeks ago was interesting. The time of day never works out for watching a ton of it if you're in the States because it's basically being played overnight. But kudos to Schauffele for having a really good couple of weekend rounds there to take home the victory. Thor Bjornsson, Grazerman, Garrick Higo, Alex Smalley, Benny On, Rico Hoey, all kind of rounding out that top five there. So nice to see some of those guys playing well. Guys that we've talked about for sure on this show before played pretty well over there in Japan a couple weeks ago. As Noto mentioned, he was happy to see Xander win, and I think fairly impressive for him to travel overseas and have the commitment to take down that tournament in a relatively weak field. I really wasn't banking on that being the week that he kind of showed out. Usually he saves that for other tournaments, but nice to see from him.
Yeah, it kind of felt like with it being in Japan, I think his mom's from Japan, and he hadn't picked up a win all year. It just kind of felt like a good spot for him. And I ended up falling asleep when they were on like the 13th or 14th hole. He was tied for the lead. Woke up, saw him win, and so I was super pumped. And then I saw the highlight of Grazerman's approach shot on 18. I don't know if he shot, but it was like an inch away from going in for the playoffs. So that would have been wild. I know you were high on Grazerman. You brought him up, talked him up last week. So, and then we both liked Rico Hoey. So I think it was a pretty good week for the show.
Yeah, Hoey using that longer putter now and has at least had a little bit more steady results with the putter, still a bit up and down, but Benny On, another guy that tends to struggle with the putter that had a good week. Keith Mitchell also with a top 10 and kind of closed my eyes and played some of him a couple weeks ago. McCarty had the round of the day on Sunday, shot a 60 to kind of sneak up into the top 15 there. He was pretty far out of the mix, but 11 under par round is not too shabby to end your week. And he is, I believe, the defending champion this week for the event that was held here in Utah once last year on a kind of unique style layout where you can get some lies on some volcanic rock, if you will, if you're in the wrong spot, but otherwise played as a pretty easy course. We only have 1 year of data on the Black Desert Resort course, but what do we know about it?
Yeah, if you haven't seen the course, do yourself a favor and Google some of the pictures. It's one of the coolest looking courses that you'll ever see, just because you'll have the black rock, the red mountains in the background, and then just the pristine green grass. The fairways here are extremely wide. Like off the tee, there's not a lot that can go wrong. But if you do miss the fairways, then you might end up having to re-tee because you're going to lose your ball. You mentioned the rock. You just don't know if you're going to have a lie or if you're going to be able to find your ball. So that's really the main defense of the course off the tee is just, if you're too far offline, then you might have to re-tee. I think having a few of my golfers last year, especially on the par fives, hitting their second into these greens. And it's never a good feeling when you see a guy, you see that penalty stroke pop up and then they drop right where they, hit their last one from. Yeah, it's 7,421 yards, par 71, but it doesn't play that long. This is 3,000 feet above sea level. So the ball's going to travel a lot farther. I've seen people say it plays closer to 6,900 yards as a par 71, which would be one of the shorter par 71s on the PGA Tour. Water's only in play on 2 of the holes. The greens are big. In terms of the numbers from last year, 85% of the fairways were hit. 76% of the greens were hit in regulation. And
those are both big numbers.
Big numbers. And there's no wind at all in the forecast. There's no trees on the property, so it's exposed to wind, but there's not going to be any wind this week. So I think we're going to see some extremely low scores. Going to have to make a lot of birdies. Going to have to hit the ball well and then make a lot of putts.
Yeah, and last year it was played, I believe, 2 weeks earlier on the calendar, and the temperature a couple of days was in the 90s, which is unseasonably warm for this time of year. But 2 weeks later on the calendar this year, temperatures projected to be in the mid 70s with no wind and not much to worry about in terms of trouble. So should be pretty much ideal for these guys to rip it and make some birdies. Noto had mentioned the fairway and green and regulation percentages, just big numbers there when guys are hitting 14 greens in regulation in a round. That's a lot. So will be interesting to see. I believe 23 under was the winning score last year in the debut of this tournament. So you're going to need to make birdies to climb up the leaderboard. If I just scroll down to 10 under for the week was 43rd, and the cut line was -5. So it's definitely a course where you're going to need to score, and you're going to need to get as many guys through the cut as possible, just because the scoring is so good that it's going to be tough to withstand a miscut in a lineup compared to one that doesn't have a miscut in terms of the overall scoring for the week. So otherwise, bombers, scorers, guys who are playing well right now certainly doesn't hurt, is pretty much the type of player you want to look for this week. Anything else on the course before we dig in?
Yeah, I tend to bump up putting whenever we have these birdie fests where the greens are easy to hit. And then, we'll talk about him later, but Carson Young. It's Carson Young week just because he can't scramble, and he doesn't need to scramble here.
That's exactly why I wrote him up as my favorite contrarian golfer in our survey this week for our RotoGrinders content. So, yes, this is the week where he can check the box, and we'll circle back to him in a while when we get to the value guys. But, all right, let's go ahead. And for the record, McCarty is the defending champ, 23 under here last year. Jaeger came in second. That was part of the time period where he was playing real well at 20 under. Some veterans, Streelman and Lucas Glover, tied for third at 19 under. So those were your top 4 finishers a year ago. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into it here. We do not have a whole lot of high-end pricing this week. It gets pretty easy to, start your roster off with somebody because we don't have the 11, 12, 13K-ish guys. There's no Scheffler in the field this week. But it starts with guys that we're maybe not used to seeing all the way at the top. This is kind of a common theme during the fall. We've got McNeely at 10.5, Alex Noren at 10.2, and Thor Bjornsson, who's been playing real well at 10K, as the only golfers above that 5-digit salary threshold on DraftKings. We've got them, all 3 of them, projected at 28 to 30% ownership right now. So basically pretty even amongst all of them. Do you have a preference among the three? Are you just skipping them and starting in the nines? What are you doing with the top few golfers?
I'm probably going to be starting in the nines. The first two golfers in my model this week are both under 10K in terms of their ratings. So that's probably what I'm going to do with my main lineup. But man, Thorbjornsen, hard not to like him, coming off a third place finish. I think he lost a bunch of strokes around the green too in that event. So I like him. Noren's been playing great. He's got 2 wins in his last 4 starts. But I think of Noren as like an elite scrambler where when the course is hard, he tends to play his best. And then I was looking at Matt McNeely, not very good on easy courses, and one of the worst in the field in weak fields, which is a little surprising to me. So he tends to like the courses that are tougher, tends to like the bigger events. Doesn't mean he'll play bad here. He's been, pretty awesome for a year now, but I don't think I need to force any of these guys into my lineups. But if I'm picking a favorite, it's going to be Thorbjornsen.
Yeah, and Thorbjornsen for me as well. You look at he's made 7 of his last 8 cuts and has shown quite a propensity for top 20 finishes in there. He tends to be a guy that you think of as more of an aggressive type of player. I think he's going to be a star at some point. His one weakness has been around the green, which is the area I'm waiting the least this week, as alluded to with Carson Young. So the tee to green, ball striking, off the tee stuff is all really good for Thorbjornsen. And the points you made are certainly valid as well. So he's my favorite of the 3. I don't think he's an absolute must play by any means. I don't think you have to go locking him in there. I think you can start in the nines, but if we're picking anybody above that 10K plus threshold on DraftKings, Thorbjornsen is my pick, especially if the ownership stays kind of where it's at right now. Our projections our RotoGrinders projections like Noren the most. But again, it's not been enough to have a huge swing in the projected ownership. So clean sweep for us there on Thorbjornsen being the preferred play at the top of the board. Let's go ahead and move down into the 9K range. We have quite a few options here. About 8 golfers, I think, in the 9Ks. Jason Day, first time we've seen him in a while, up here at the $9,800 price point. Kurt Kitayama, Kevin Yu are the other golfers above 9,500, and then the rest of the 9K range. Rico Hoey, who we talked about, had a good week the last time out. Grillo, who's been playing pretty well in the late summer, early fall. Thorbjorn Olesen, McCarty, your defending champ, rounding out that 9K range. Certainly, I think Hoey will get a lot of attention, and we've analyzed his putting splits quite often on this show, switching to the long putter. I know he had 1 week where he was basically average with the putter and 1 week where he was still terrible, but he basically finished dead last. And then had another solid week last time out, but though I can't remember the splits of putting. I'm sure you probably have those, but Hoey in the 9K is going to be my favorite again. The tee to green game we know is going to be there, and the putter I at least have confidence that he's going to be better than he has been. So your thoughts on the 9Ks?
Yeah, our guy Rico is yet to be positive in the putting category, but he only lost 4 strokes combined in his last 3 starts and switching to the long putter. Prior to that, he lost 28 strokes in his previous 4 starts. So, I mean, a guy that's just like bleeding strokes on the greens. You hope he's figuring it out a little bit. 4th place finish while losing strokes putting his last time out. That's pretty impressive. And he's one of the only guys above 9K that's played this event. Was T21 year last year. Also like Kurt Kitayama, who played here last year, finished T25. He wasn't great at the Bay Current Classic, but he did gain 4.6 strokes on approach. He hadn't played in like 2 months before that, so maybe just some rust shaking off there. For tournaments, if nobody's going to go back to McCarty, I like him quite a bit. If nobody's going to play Kevin Yu at 9,500, I think he's one of the better options on the board. Top 10 in the field and bird your better rate. Coming in pretty good form too. So you can play 2 or 3 of these guys and still feel pretty good about the rest of your lineup. You mentioned we haven't seen Jason Day in a while, but I mean, he's playing on everyone's YouTube channel. I don't know if you know, he started one with his friends called The Lads. He's got a full par 3 course in his backyard, which is kind of cool that they're always playing. But I don't know, maybe all that golf is going to lead to some back problems. I don't know. But for this week alone, I don't really love Jason Day, and then I'll probably skip everyone else. I like you. I like Kitayama, Hoey, and McCarty, kind of my top 4 there.
Speaking of YouTube videos, did you watch the Break 50 with Steph Curry and Bryson?
Yeah, the second it came out, of course.
So 4 million views in 3 days.
Wow.
That's crazy. 4 million views in 3 days for that. So
They did it too.
What's that?
They did it. They broke 50.
I mean, nobody would have expected that from Bryson, 8 years ago, how far we've come. But just pretty electric content there. So if you haven't seen that, check it out on Bryson's YouTube channel. But I was not familiar with Jason Day becoming the YouTube legend. So maybe he's trying to follow in Bryson's footsteps. Midlife crisis, maybe. All right. Yeah, in this range, I mean, Hoey is my favorite in here. I'll take the over on Kevin Yu being 7% owned. Our projections are really sour on Kevin Yu, but I think that's a little harsh. With it being a Bombers course, he's plenty long off the tee. You look at his results this year have maybe a little bit of a hiccup in the late summer, but like the early part of the summer was good. His last 3 events have all been made cuts, a couple top 20s in there. So yeah, I'll probably have to pitch for us to bring Yu's projection up a little bit. I think our current numbers are a little bit too harsh on him, but Kitayama I think is fine as well, though he's probably going to be the most popular, I would guess. So I'll probably be underweight on him with Yu and Hoey being my favorites. I don't hate Davis Thompson either. And then I'll be curious to see what the field does on McCarty. I mean, we all tend to get nervous about defending champ, but he also shot that 60 on Sunday in Japan. Remember when he first started playing, more full-time on the PGA Tour, he was, really projecting well and kind of hit a bit of a rough patch, but that's pretty normal for guys that are just still adjusting to full-time life on tour. So I like him as well, but I would put him a pretty good distance behind Hoey and Kevin Yu on my personal wish list. Anything else at or above 9K for you?
I think that's it for me. Didn't McCarty get the automatic promotion by winning 3 times, or did he just come up?
Yeah, I believe so.
So yeah, I mean, we know he's a prolific winner. You mentioned the form dipping off after he won last year, and he's been great recently. So I think he's kind of back and ready for his next push in his career.
Yeah, I think he's certainly all right, and nice to see him have that great final round in Japan. So it's not like he finished I think he was in 50th place, somewhere in between 40th and 50th place heading into the final round, and shot that 60 in the final round to move up to T14, I believe. So a pretty good move on the final day for him. I always like seeing those good final rounds. Although there's been a week off in between, still should be playing with confidence being the defending champ and having shot a 60 in his last competitive round. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on into the 8Ks. Lots of mid-range options this week. We'll break up the 8Ks into 2 tiers here, just because I think there's some interesting names to talk about. Seabez at the top of the 8K range is actually the only golfer with 2 top 10s on the fall swing so far. He only has 3 top 10s all year. 2 of them have come in his last 2 starts. So he's an intriguing start to the range at 8,900. I did tag him this week. Alex Smalley coming off a strong finish in Japan himself. You got Matt Wallace in here, Pearson Coody, who arrives with, a hit or miss type of projection most of the time. And then Max Homa, who has been playing much better in recent months after a really long stretch of dry golf from him. I know there's some people starting to get back on that Max Homa bandwagon. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Seabez is definitely my favorite in this range at 8.9K. He's a little bit of a diversion away from the bomber angle that I'm playing with most of my picks this week. He does, tend to rely on his short game a little bit more, but I do like the fact that he's on a couple of top 10s on the bounce here. So pretty good form with him. What are you looking at in this top part of the 8K range here from Homa to Seabez?
I'm not really a fan of anybody. I know our projections at RotoGrinders really like Seabez. You like him too, but man, he just doesn't make a lot of birdies. That worries me a little bit. And then, yeah, I mean, Homa, if he was 7,500, I'd feel real good about him. But 8,500 for a guy that, misses a lot of cuts worries me. Feels like an event where Pearson Coody could play well. I just don't have any strong takes. And even the lower 8s, I don't have a lot of guys on my radar. I like William Mao. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce his last name. Do you know if
Pretty
that's
sure it is.
okay? Because I've
He
been
had a
saying that
baby
on all my
on his
videos.
on his own birthday. So now they got double babies in whatever day that September something.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, he's been good. He won the ISCO a few months ago, and then backed it up with the second and an 18th in his last 2 times out. 8,100 feels like a really good price point there. Clanton, we just haven't seen a lot from him, but I don't know, he's got plenty of experience on the PGA Tour now. Feels like maybe this is a year he kind of breaks out and starts playing more consistently. I think our projections like Meissner too. I don't really have a strong take there, but anyone else you like down here?
Yeah, Mao is the guy that I tagged as well. So we're in agreement on quite a few guys this week. But you look at the way he's been playing over the last 3 months, pretty good form compared to other guys in this salary range. That win at the ISCO that you mentioned, he also followed that up with a 7th at the 3M, and he also had a very good final round in Japan to finish T18. That's the only start that he's made, so he's relatively rested otherwise, outside of being up with a new baby. But yeah, otherwise, I kind of agree that this range is relatively weak. Ryan Gerard, I suppose, would be another guy that's probably going to end up in my player pool if he's under 10% owned, just because we've seen some flashes from him before. But otherwise, outside of Mao, pretty low on this range as a whole. So a lot of my lineups are going to start with guys in the 9s or one of those guys above 10K, and then dip down into the 7s for some other options. Then it gets pretty weak as well once you get below 7K. So upper part of the 7K range here, don't necessarily need to. There's a lot of golfers between 7K and 8K this week. Kind of the usual pricing method on DraftKings, but it seems a little bit more jammed up even than usual. You got Thigala in here as probably the name that a lot of people will recognize. Victor Perez, who we've talked about on the show quite a few times. Jaeger, friend of the show, and mentioned that he finished second here. He was the runner-up to McCarty a year ago. Hasn't been in as good a form recently, but Jaeger at 7,700. Mark Hubbard's been pretty steady at that same price range as well. If you want to go all bomber, you got Cam Champ, Doug Gim on Team No Putt here. Fishburne's been playing pretty well. So again, it's not like these names are that glamorous. Kevin Roy at 7,500 as well, but I think these guys are pretty much on the similar level to a lot of the golfers that are in the 8s. So you can maybe grab a couple golfers from this 7.5 to 7.9K range. What are you liking in here?
The fact that Cam Champ still has a PGA Tour card for so many years in a row is just wild to me. The dude just shows up for like 3 events and gets all of his points in those events. This isn't one of them. I mean, maybe he shows up here, but yeah, it's just funny that he's just in every event. The guys I like the most, I like Kevin Roy every single week. Just say the same thing. He's good in all 4 of the strokes gained categories, above the field average. He's been in pretty good form, 7th and an 18th in his last 3 starts. He's number 1 in the field in strokes gained on very easy courses over the last 2 years. He's my favorite. Also like Patrick Fishburne. Grew up in Utah. Played his college golf at BYU. Granted, this course is like 4 hours south of where the valley is, where I live and where he lived. But still, you got that hometown narrative a little bit.
There's a 4-hour drive within Utah?
Yeah, so we're like up north, and they're St. George very south, right next to like Vegas. So
I just didn't realize. I mean, I live in Illinois, and if you go from the northern tip of Illinois to the southern tip of Illinois from the middle of the state, it is like 6 hours. But yeah, I guess Utah sneaky big if you're going from like northwest to the south part.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I like Fishburne quite a bit. I think he could. I don't know. I think he could pop here. I don't know about anybody else. I like Victor Perez a little bit. Another one of those guys that's on the team can't scramble. So if you like Carson Young, if you like Thor Bjornsson, throw Victor Perez on that list. He's a good putter, good off the tee, good approach player. That's just about it for me. Don't mind Vince Whaley. He's actually the best bentgrass putter in the field. He's been pretty good recently.
If you're looking for golfers in here from last year in the debut at this course, Whaley did make the cut, but finished basically dead last of golfers who made the cut. But he did make the weekend. Jaeger, I mentioned, was runner-up. Gim was T25, Champ T46. Hubbard missed cut. Fishburne missed the cut as well. But Obviously, Fishburne's been playing better golf too. A rough stretch in the spring for him, but he's made 8 cuts in a row. He's had 3 top 20s in that stretch as well. So Fishburne is my favorite. You mentioned the local Utah connections. He was my favorite even before you mentioned that. So at 7,600, I like Fishburne quite a bit. I think Hubbard's pretty safe. Jaeger, I think, is fine. Gim, I think, is fine for GPPs, but Fishburne is definitely my favorite, and Roy as well. If we go down to 7,500, those two guys, I think, are really strong plays in this price range that can pay off that salary with some ceiling potential as well. I've seen some buzz about Taylor Montgomery this week. Not my cup of tea. I haven't played him in forever, but I get it, I guess. And he can definitely, if you think it's going to turn into a putting contest, he can definitely hang there. But otherwise, the rest of his metrics just not good enough for me. Kanaya is in the field after a T4 in Japan a couple weeks ago, so he was another guy that had a really big Sunday round. He's at 7,400. As we scroll down through the rest of the 7K range, again, the field gets pretty ugly once you get under 7K. So there's not going to be a whole lot of names to talk about pretty much the rest of the way here. But you're probably going to have to round out your lineup with one golfer from the value range. We've hinted at Carson Young throughout the show. Other guys, Bramlett at 7,300, McGreevy, Sam Ryder, the aforementioned Carson Young, Patrick Rogers, Chad Ramey, all top 25 finishes here a year ago. Ryder was T40, but all those other guys that I mentioned were top 25 here a year ago. I haven't seen a lot of recent form from any of those guys, but if you want to sprinkle some upside into your lineups, Bramlett can really send it off the tee if you're into that distance angle. Projections like Ryder a good bit. I'm in on Carson Young simply because if this is a course where everybody's going to hit greens and it's pretty easy, that's the type of course he thrives on. He was T11 here last year too. So Carson Young is going to be the flag plant for me at 7,200. I presume you are in the same boat. Otherwise, who else you like in the rest of the 7Ks?
Yeah, give me all the Carson Young for all the reasons you mentioned. Just don't think his bad chipping is going to come back to haunt him at this course. I like that. Pot Geeter at 7,300 is a little interesting. A guy that can bomb it if you do want to play the bomber angle. Form's been so hit or miss, but when he clicks, he tends to make a lot of birdies. Then I'm actually on Taylor Montgomery. You brought him up. So I looked up his stats. He's gained on approach in 4 of his last 5. He's the best putter in the field. And I don't know, you like these guys that gain all their strokes with the short game. I'm surprised you're not on him this week.
Yeah, I don't know. I just it's a struggle for me to target like guys who are. It's fair though that the approach play's gotten better. It used to be so bad tee to green that I just on a course where guys are going to be bombing it. It worries me if he's going to fall short off the tee. But to be fair, he has been better from tee to green. So maybe it was a biased dismissal on my part.
The driver is still a big concern. The 50-yard wide fairway should help, but if he misses those, then he's going to be re-teeing quite a bit. But I think he's interesting. I do think he tends to be popular. I don't know if he pops in like a lot of the models around the industry or what, but he tends to be really popular. So I don't know. We'll see about that. I don't know if I like anyone else. Rosenmuller's a guy that projects well for me. Don't really know a lot about him. 7,100. And that's all I got above 7K.
Yeah, it thins out in a hurry. We'll probably have a narrower player pool of values, even though this is a week where, if you find somebody you like in here, you can certainly embrace some variance this week. Chris Ventura, another guy like at 7K, maybe I sprinkle him in a few GPP lineups, but basically you're just, hoping a guy can catch fire and make birdies on an easier course. And down here in the value range is where it's easier maybe to take a chance. If you're on team no putt, like Luke List can still hit it a mile, can't really do anything else. I've seen a couple of people vouch for Trey Mullinax, who's kind of in that same bomb and gouge mold. As we get into the 6Ks here, Andrew Putnam is grading out the best in projections. I think he's probably the play if you're looking for somebody that's quote unquote safe, but he's certainly not long off the tee by any means. So, if I was taking a shot on somebody, it'd be a Luke List or a Mullinax type, maybe Quaddy Cummins, but it's it really gets yucky in a hurry, especially once you get below 6.6K this week. Norman Jong's in the field again.
Yes.
But Gordon Sargent, talented young kid that's kind of been all over the place. Like, I just don't want to trust any of those guys. So sprinkling at best with anybody that's under 7K. Do you like anybody down here?
Yeah, I'm not playing anybody in this range. I just don't think you need to. Danny Walker does project well for me, but he's missed 7 of his last 9 cuts. His one good finish, he gained 9 strokes putting, so I don't really want to put too much stock into that. Joel Damon, maybe. He's a guy that tends to play desert golf well.
I think he's okay. Yeah, I think Damon's okay as well at that. I mean, he's really, really cheap. So, yeah, he'll probably end up in my player pool.
Although him and Gino split. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I don't know. It seems like caddy changes haven't bothered a lot of guys lately.
Yeah. Good or bad, it seems like.
All right. Yeah, that pretty much takes us through it. I know Zach Blair's a Utah guy as well, but another guy that I'm just not targeting on this course. Streelman finished 3rd here a year ago, but another, veteran guy that just doesn't have a ton of distance. So it gets pretty ugly this week. I would recommend, just maybe playing a little bit lighter than usual. It's a tough tournament to try to pin down with these weak fields, and we see that a lot during the fall swing. But still fun to get a 4-day sweat in DFS golf, and we'll see how this tournament plays out. A little bit of a weird wrinkle in the schedule here that there's another off week next week. I don't know why. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but another off week next week, and then there are 3 tournaments in a row in November for the first 3 weeks of November that are kind of in the same spot as normal on the calendar. Maybe that's why the week off. So Worldwide Technology Championship in Los Cabos in 2 weeks. Then the Bermuda Championship, obviously in Bermuda, and then the RSM, traditionally the last event of the fall swing, that's in Georgia. So that will be the 3 events we'll have full show for you in November, but another week off next week before we hit those final 3 fall swing events. So anything else for this week before we sign off?
No, thanks for watching during the fall. We know a lot of attention is elsewhere, so we appreciate your support. And yeah, let's have a good week. I think it's a good one to pivot off the cheap chalk and kind of take some stands.
Yeah, it's a good course. It's like Noto mentioned at the beginning of the show, visually appealing, fun to watch. So check out some golf this week in the midst of following all the other sports. If you're watching us on playback, we still appreciate that as well. Even if you've got me on 2x speed here or 1.5x speed, whatever. If I sound like a mouse that you're trying to consume the content on speed dial, that's okay as well. So always okay to pack this into a short time period as long as you're getting those lineups in and helping support DFS golf. Always great to see those big prize pools out there. So as always, thanks to Steve for working hard behind the scenes producing for us. Thanks to Noto for joining me. I'm Justin. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks, everybody. Enjoy all the fall sports content over at RotoGrinders.com. Leave us a thumbs up on the YouTube stream before you exit. And we'll see you back here in 2 weeks, everybody. For Steve, for Noto, I'm Justin. Take care.